Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, this is Pari.
And this is Jenny, and we're here to talk about
Bees Books. My hand flourishes are back. Yes, it's just because I've come off of a very flourishy book bug. It needed a lot of flourishes to keep the children on
Focused.
me,
Yeah.
which it worked like maybe 10%.
It's school holidays, they've got no attention span, and the best of days, school
Yes.
holidays, no, not a chance.
And it's sunny as well, so I feel like I sometimes get a bit dazed by the sun in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, because last week it was sunny and it kept trying to blind me, and I took it very personally. Today it was just warming me like a friendly figure.
No, I know that feeling when you're driving and the sun is just at that level where, your visor doesn't quite,
And it feels like it's trying to do it to you specifically.
Absolutely.
On purpose.
Yes.
But yeah, today it's a kinder sun.
It is.
So, how have you been, Jenny?
Yes, I'm fine, although I've woken up this morning with a slightly gritty throat. So just if I a couple of times,
Right, yeah.
it's just because of that. I'm hoping it's not going to come to anything, Pari.
Oh, good luck.
Yes, I have been touch wood lucky so far. So
Okay, I'm surrounded by people falling ill.
No.
So maybe I'm like, the eye of the storm, whereas everyone around me falls.
No, hopefully not.
Hopefully
How about
not.
you?
I am okay, yes. My head is still in book bug mode.
Excellent.
So I might like sing a rhyme in the middle of our recording, especially because I only have one book today instead of our usual. We usually have two. Sometimes we have 7 or 9.
I want to know, is it a classic?
It is a modern classic.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's about 45 years old,
Right, okay.
which I feel like if a book stuck around that long,
Absolutely.
and it has won not 1, not 2,
Ooh.
but 3 Bookers.
Oh.
I didn't even know you were allowed to win multiple Bookers. So it won the Booker Prize when it first came out. And then it won the Booker of Bookers on the 25th anniversary and the Booker of Bookers on the 40th anniversary.
What's going to happen on the 50th anniversary, Pari?
No.
Is it a quadruple Booker Prize?
I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose, but I suppose they're trying to shine a spotlight extra hard on this one
And
book.
what is it?
It's called, first we should talk about the theme that we're going to be talking about. It's good remembering, Pari. We're going to be talking about Adventure Begins.
Which puzzles me slightly with a 45-year-old book.
Yes, it was quite an adventure even reading it. But it's called Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie.
Oh.
Again, it's like a chunky boy, chunky fellow, but also it's like dense text, like proper
absolutely.
dense. Like, where are the paragraphs? I mean, there's like a couple, but it's like there's some pages again that have no paragraph, so it just goes on and on. And it took me quite a while to read, which is why it's only 1. And the adventure, well, there are several layers of adventures in this book. One is me choosing to read it because I'm a little bit I side-eye prize-winning things a bit.
Me too. Yeah.
Just because sometimes, it feels like it's not the kind of book I would read. It's the kind of book that a specific panel likes, but not necessarily something that I would like. I have been proven wrong once before with another Booker Prize winning and another Indian author as well, who The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, not Rao. And I'd read her book first when I was like early 20s, maybe late teens, and I hated it. Hated it. I was like, I'm completely correct about being suspicious of Booker Prize. And then a few years later, I gave it another shot because I think somebody had recommended it, or I'd heard somebody talk really well about certain elements of it, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite books. So I think sometimes you have to be ready for the book. This one I knew. So again, it's an Indian author. He's now in the US, I think, but Indian origin, from my city, from Mumbai. And I knew that it was a book about India. So that's the one Adventure Begins, because we start at the dawn of independent India, which is when India got independence from the British Empire, the 15th of August, 1947. So that's where we begin. But then we go back in time. So I thought, oh yes, I'm ready for the adventure to begin. Oh right, 15th of August, okay. No, but then we go back to 1917. Like, okay, I guess another adventure is beginning. Yes. No, but then we time travel into the past and the present and the future. I mean, it's all, he wrote it 45 years ago, so it was all the past. Like, there wasn't too much of a future, but the future of then. And so Midnight, I'll talk about it later, like in detail later, but it's just, it wasn't the kind of book I expected in terms of adventures and in a good way. So yes, so no, it sounds like very waffly, but that's because this book is very waffly.
Right, okay.
And I'll talk about it more. But yes, so there's lots of adventures because it's not just an adventure about the country, but about this character in it and different characters in it and different histories and different countries. It all goes wonky.
I'm intrigued.
You should be.
Well, I do have two books, Pari, because I'm on quite a good, again, Touchwood reading journey at the moment. And my first one, which I literally finished yesterday lunchtime, is Chronicles of Weatherby, The Age of Enchantment by Anna James.
Right. That looks really nice.
Yes, and our favourite person who does the illustrations for the eLibrary books, David Wyatt, did the illustrations from here. You can absolutely tell without even knowing it was him.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
So very fantastical style. No, very classic style.
Yes, and it's my favourite. It's kind of pen and ink, you know, it's kind of just black and white, and it's just very, there's always something else to see inside the pictures.
You said our favourite, and I totally did not remember who this man was.
And I made it your favourite, even though it's my favourite. Yes.
No, but I was like, who is David? I hope Jenny explained. And then when you said Podkin, I was like, of course.
Yes.
So where is the adventure beginning there?
So this is the first in the series. And yes, I'll explain a wee bit more in a second. Okay. It's a junior book, again, a junior fiction. And my other book I'm quite excited about is Dungeon Crawler Carol, which is really hard to say in a Scottish accent, I think. Dungeon Crawler Carol.
Let me try it with an Indian accent. Dungeon Crawler Carl. That's right. It's not very
no,
at all. No. It is a Scottish
thing. By Matt Dennyman.
That's also quite a tricky. It's, you feel like it's going in one way, and then there's like a trick.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a science fiction fantasy book, adult, and it was glorious.
It doesn't feel like the kind of book that you would read.
It is not, and I will explain why I chose it later on. Okay. But if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about the Chronicles of Weatherby. So this is the first in the series, The Age of Enchantment. It did have slight Kieran Larwood vibes as well, because there's almost like a narrator, there's a grandfather at the beginning. It's telling his grandchildren a story about this mythical place, which is filled with magic. This is definitely a book for people who like that whole kind of Harry Potter, Rick Riordan type of magical world. And definitely Kieran Larwood fans as well. I've not heard of Anna James before. I did no research whatsoever, so I have no idea who she is. But she writes magnificently. So the story is based around twins, who I've completely forgotten the name of, even though I only read about them yesterday. Rafferty and Juniper.
Okay.
So they live in Weatherby, and everybody has a touch of magic who's born there, and everybody's magic is to do with the season. So you're either spring, summer, autumn, or winter, and depending on what season that magic is, depends on what the magic does, if that makes sense. So spring is all about kind of new beginnings and, you know, making things new. Winter seems to be about kind of finishing things off. You know, it's all kind of very not vague at all, because they know what they're talking about, but as we're learning, we're kind of learning, right, okay, if you've got summer, that means that you're more inclined to do this, or you're more inclined to do that if you've got like autumn in you.
It reminds me of the book you talked about, the Dragon Slinger. Was that Dragon Slinger? Dreamslinger, yes, which was set in Korea, but had that kind of vibe about it with seasonal magical abilities.
Absolutely, yeah. This is set in a completely different place, but it does have that kind of that whole feel about it. You know, it's kind of, and again, it's kind of children coming of age, kind of thing. So in this Weatherby, everybody's got a touch of magic, but some people are enchanters and some people have all 4 seasons in them. So when you reach a certain age, which I think is probably 12, because that seems to be the age. I remember being 12. I don't remember the excitement of all this kind of stuff. They go and they do a test, which kind of confirms what their magic is and what they can go on and do. So the twins, Juniper and Rafferty, go. Rafferty knows deep down inside what he is, and most people do by that time have a kind of inclination what their I was going to say superpower, what their magic has. But Juniper, she's more she's convinced that she's got more than one. You know, she can do different things, and she's kind of like, I don't feel that I've just got one, but she's not quite sure. So they go and do this test. It's found out she's an enchanter. So she's going to get taken to the school, which again, sorry, I cannot remember. Thistledown Academy. And Rafferty's going to be staying at home. Now, the twins they're very close, you know, they've never been apart. They kind of can finish each other's sentences and things like that. So they're not overly happy about this. Yay, we've got an enchanter in the family and the village itself. But, you know, it means they're going to be kind of separated. There's only a few enchanters in the whole of the place, the whole country. So I think there's maybe like a dozen in the class, maybe not even that, and they're all like taken from different places. And it's a wonderful, she really builds up the world really well, you know, because again, we're learning bits as we go along, because we don't know Thistledown, but neither does Juniper. But we're also learning bits that they take for granted, if you know what I mean. However, along the line, we discover that everything they take for granted isn't necessarily true. And it's the kind of book you know where you want it to go, and it does go there, but it does it in a really good way, a really kind of adventure-filled way. So as we're going along, the story like jumps from Rafferty's point of view and Juniper's point of view. This is not a spoiler. Rafferty decides to follow her. He's of an age now where he can be apprenticed out. He can become an apprentice. And they both grow up in a bookbinding environment. So they go to the big city where the academy is, and he decides to get an apprenticeship in a bookbindery and use his skills and hopefully meet up with his sister, you know, and it's not too bad. However, things happen along the way and they don't know each other or nearby straight away. And they both seem to have their own adventures. And that's, you know, another way it's tied into the theme, because they've both got their own adventure that they begin, but it turns out it's all entangled and tied up. And as the person reading it, you can kind of see that, all right, okay. But of course, Rafferty has no idea what's happening with Juniper and vice versa. So she's in this academy. She's learning how to do her magic, how, you know, her place in the world is. And basically the academy are kind of saying, you know, we want you to use your magic, but if you can fix a leak by fixing the leak without magic, do that first, kind of a thing.
So is magic a sort of limited resource, or?
No, again, you're kind of learning as you go along, and it seems to be, we don't know everything because, you know, this is the first in a series, but it does seem to be, there's no rhyme or reason who gets like the full magic. Everybody's got a little bit of magic, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. But basically, they're all taught, you know, your magic is you know, don't just use your magic for the sake of using your magic. Make sure that you try something else first. Whereas Rafferty on the outside of the academy, he's getting kind of taught that, you know, how dare these people get all the magic, you know, we've all got a little bit in us, why can't we have more? And there's things afoot outside for people to try and steal magic almost from other people. And as I say, the stories do eventually collide, and it's great. But there's lots of lovely wee touches in it as well. Like, because although the enchanters have all 4 seasons, there's still one that's slightly easier for them to use, if that makes sense. I can't remember what either Rafferty or Juniper's main one is. I know they're slightly different. I think maybe one's spring and one's summer, kind of a thing. And it, you know, when they're working in their family bookbindery, that makes sense, because one of them is better at the kind of stitching and all that kind of stuff. Another one's better at something else, you know, so it works because they're working as a team, you know, but now they're separate, you know, it's kind of a little bit So Juniper gets to the academy, adventures along the way, and then she makes friends. Again, you kind of know this is where it's going to go, because that's where you want it to go, because that's, but again, Anna James does it really, really well. And you're totally invested in her friends. You can see how something's happened on the way to the academy, and it's kind of mashed them together. No, that sounds horrible. It's cemented their friendships, I would say. And you see the different, even in that situation, the way that different people see the different magics, if you see what I mean. So one of the girls that they meet up with, she's quite posh, and she just thinks she's going to become an enchanter at the court, and be with the queen, and all very nice. The other friend, Oliver, I want to say, he is from actually a very rich background, but quite I think he's like not the first son, and he's kind of quite down to earth, quite quiet, kind of watches what's happening. Doesn't play up the fact that he's got money. And then we've got Juniper, who has no kind of magical background at all. Nobody from her village has ever had it for the last 40 years or whatever. They've just been getting on with their lives and don't really know anything about the big city kind of a thing. And then we've got Rafferty, who also makes a friend, goes and be an apprentice, discovers that things have been happening in the bindery. The last apprentice, I think, disappeared, things like that. And he makes a friend there as well, Jessie. She's been there for a while. She's kind of like, I'm not going to be your friend because you might not be here for a while, because the last couple have just left kind of a thing. But they do become friends. We find out Jessie's got some backstory happening, and you're like, oh. There was a lot in it for a children's book as well. And I can see that this adventure is going to go on. There's going to be at least 3 books, I would imagine. I think the second one is far too small for me to read with my glasses on.
The Season of Flames.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a dragon at one point in it. There are a group of people who kind of sell magical items on the black market. There's kind of underground groups. There's a whole load of stuff going on. Enough to fill the book, not too much to overwhelm you. And if you had never read this kind of book before, I think this is a great dip your toe in book. Because you might not know that they're going to make friends because you've not read this kind of story before. So you're kind of going along with them. I just, absolutely loved it. And the only reason I chose it was because I seen David Wyatt had done the illustrations. And then I kind of looked into it a wee bit more, and I was like, I need to know.
I think I'm kind of familiar with Anna James's work. She writes a lot of, book-related books. So the series that I know is Pages and Co. So like the titles, Tilly and the Book Wanderers, Tilly and the Lost Fairy Tales, The Book Smugglers, The Treehouse Library. That's the kind of stuff that she's writing. I think she has a new book out as well. I don't know how new this is. Or if the American title has a different title and it was the same one. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by her sort of, and even in this, when you said bookbinder, that's what made me remember. Like, I think she loves books and she wants to write about her love for books and stories and sort of mesh them together.
See, you're always better at that than me. I just, I don't really care about the author and all that kind of stuff. I'm interested in the story. Occasionally I will have a look. But yeah, I can imagine her writing other kind of stories that have got that kind of, because she was very much, when she's talking about the family one in their hometown, you could tell it was written with love, almost like, this is where I want to work.
Yes.
I want to work in a magical bindery. And like right at the beginning, somebody comes in and it's just the two of them because their parents have went to do something. And he's very angry because his book has been lost, and it's his wife's, I think it's recipes or something like that, and she's passed away, and he wanted these binded into a book for him to keep. And he's very, very upset. And they kind of realise that actually there's been it's went to a different bindery, and they've not, it's been a mix-up kind of a thing. But when she's talking about that, she's very much talking about it with,
like what it means to different
yes,
people. Yeah.
And when we get to the bookbindery in the big city, you can tell that not all is as it seems, that she's, again, I think, writing very much as if that was what she would want, kind of a thing, if that makes sense. But yes, definitely worth a read.
For sure.
I think you would enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping, as we know, we've both read a few recently, that the first book's been brilliant and then it kind of dips slightly.
Or even like the first bit of a book is good and then it just nosedives. Yes.
No, this is good. You could see, as I say, where it was going. You knew that they were going to kind of come together at one point.
And did it have a satisfying end?
It did, yes. It ends as if there is going to be another one, and we know there is going to be another one. But if this was the only one you ever read, I think you would be happy enough. There's some storylines that could have went on, but it finishes enough that you think, right, okay, that's okay.
Okay, well, that's a great recommendation. Mine, I wouldn't be so vociferous with my recommendation. With Midnight Children, now I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
But I think it is quite a difficult book. And on purpose, like, not that it's a test for you, that you have to pass these 3 tests and then you're worthy of being able to read the Booker of Bookers. But it's the kinds of influences that he's taken. So in the introduction to like the 40th anniversary of this book, he writes that he was like, he wanted to write this big book, like, this big sort of mythic, like
an epic,
kind of an epic book. So he was very much inspired by a lot of like the British and the American, like these, giant books like Charles Dickens and like whatever. But he was also inspired by Indian mythology. So we have like Hindu mythology, we have a lot of these epic, like the 2 big ones are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And the thing that is kind of characterizes them is that it's populated with a lot of characters. So there'll be the main story, but then there's lots of like little digressions. There'll be a character or like a storyline that's in it just for a little bit, but then like sort of goes away, and then you never hear of them again, because it was an oral storytelling tradition. So what he says is that everyone was sort of in it, like in the audience was like willing to go along with it because the storyteller was doing such a great job of entertaining them. So the digressions just added to the story, and there'd be like dances and singing and things. So it was all like a performance. So he took inspiration from that. So there's a lot of digressions. Like the story is supposed to be about the central character, Salim Sinai, but it has like arms and legs and arms and legs and arms and legs, like lots of them.
I don't mind a few arms and legs.
No, this has so many arms and legs. And also that like another thing that I would be sort of wary of, that not everybody would enjoy, is that it's really slow going. And I'm a fast reader. Like I read pretty relatively quickly. This took me so long to read, which is why it's the only book that I have, because the prose is quite dense, like not just the formatting of the text, but he's really good at language. Like he has that storyteller skill of, like building this world, but he also like goes sort of, so in this story, Salim Sinai, who's the main character, he is telling the story of his life. So he's 31 years old and he's talking about right from not even his birth, but like his grandfather. But he keeps then like making allusions and references to things that have happened later, like just sly little things. He's like, oh, but this widow, or oh, but Parvati the witch, or oh, but whatever. Oh, but I can't say it in the wrong order, so I have to say it in the correct order. So it's quite irritating sometimes. But he especially in the beginning, I think I started like I struggled through it a bit. I was enjoying it, but it was just because it was so slow, as like, oh, I'm feeling like I'm like clip-clopping at a very, very, very slow pace. But then I think I got used to the rhythms of it, to the madness of it and the language of it, that I started going faster. So I think maybe I said it's not a test. Maybe it was a test. Maybe it's like, if you're able to get through like the first however many pages, then you can this is your reward. It's a story. So this is like, I think it's not a book for everybody. But for those who are like able to like have a little bit of sort of grace for an author who you don't quite trust, or like who you don't know, it's really rewarding. And that's what I've really loved throughout this project, this winter of me reading classics, is it's books that I've picked up that I might not necessarily have read otherwise. Midnight's Children was always in my periphery because it's a huge book in India as well. And like, you know, the Booker and Salman Rushdie and whatever. But it like sort of, I might have given up on it because it's like it was so slow, and I was like, I have other books to read. But because it was a part of the project, I wanted to give it a proper shot, and I'm glad I did because it was quite rewarding. So now I've like not sold the book to everybody. Like I've done
it to me.
I've done the anti. So I don't think you would enjoy this book, but I think there would be people who would, and I really enjoyed it as well. So now that I've like done the anti-PR. The book starts. So what is a Midnight's Child? We don't find out until like page 270 in the book. Yeah. So a Midnight's Child is basically someone who is born. So India decided to gain independence from the British Empire, or like sort of start officially its independence at the stroke of midnight. Like that was supposed to be this big thing. At the stroke of midnight, we step into this new era and things like that. So the kind of crux of this book is that within the hours of midnight and 1 a.m., all the children who were born in India, just in India, have developed these specific kind of magical abilities.
Oh.
Yes, yeah. So
I did not know where that was going.
Well, neither did I until page 270. But that's what I mean, that you have to like earn every bit of knowledge that you get in this book, because I knew that there was something weird about this guy, Salim. So the protagonist, he can when he's 10, and that also, like, he's only born on page 150. So even though it's the life and times of Salim Sinai, he talks about his family a lot and how they come together. And then he writes about his birth. So his magical power, the first one in the beginning, is that he's a telepath. So he can like read people's thoughts, and he discovers this, like, he doesn't discover this. It sort of emerges when he's 10 after an accident. And that's how then he also figures out, like, he can then first he starts locally, and then he can go nationally, and then he finds all these other Midnight's Children on page 274. That they all exist. So it wasn't just me.
And do they all have that ability?
No, they all have different abilities, and all like really like fun, strange ones. There's like a few pages describing the different kinds of abilities. But also that the ones who are born closest to midnight have stronger abilities, and the ones who are born like more like circus freak abilities is what he calls them, just like things that you can make a show of but aren't like that powerful. He was born at midnight. So also it's a book about him, right? Yeah, but it's also a book about the city of Mumbai, because that's where Salman Rushdie grew up. And that's where Salim Sinai grows up, or at least towards till he's 14. And then it's also a story about India, because it's a bit like Forrest Gump. That's the kind of comparison that I was kind of making from a Western media perspective, is that all the different historical elements that happen in modern India, like in independent India, he was there, or he was not there, but it was because of him. Like it affected his family, and he thinks all this happened because, like, we feel sometimes personally targeted by the weather and the sun. He felt personally targeted by history, by Indian history. So it was, and even like his sort of parents and grandparents, he thinks all these things happened because my grandfather was here, my grandmother was there, and this wouldn't have happened if so he has, as the kids say, main character energy. He's like, everything happens because of me, and all the good and the bad. So he sort of shoulders the burden of that. And then he moves, when he's 14, he moves to Karachi, which is like a city in Pakistan. And so Pakistan was a part of India. And then like he talks about the history there a little bit, and it's intertwined, the Indian history and Pakistani history a bit. And that, again, of course, everything is happening because of him and his family. Like, everything in Pakistan also happens because of him. He loses the power there. He can't he doesn't have the power to communicate with his fellow Midnight's children because he's like crossed the border.
Oh.
So he's no longer in India. And then it's also a history about Bangladesh a little bit, which is the neighboring country of India. And it used to be Pakistan, but then they had a fight for independence as well. And then
Was that his fault?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course, yes. Everything is his fault and targeted to make him miserable.
Okay.
Yeah. And so lots of these things. So there's again lots of these characters and stories. Even though it's called Midnight's Children, they're not like a huge part of the story. It's him, it's India, it's the city of Bombay, and I loved that part of it because it was still the city that I remembered kind of. Obviously, it was older than when he was writing and when he was remembering, but it was things that I recognized. But then when he finally makes his way back to Mumbai in the end of the book, it's changed, he's changed, the city's changed, and I could really resonate with that as well. But also, I think more than anything, it's just a fun romp of a book.
Okay.
Even though there's mad things happening, it's a completely mad book. That's what you have to go in it with that. You can't expect this book to make complete sense all the time because it's trying to dazzle you and confuse you. And, the storytellers who are making this mythic epic thing, they're trying to distract you, sleight of hand, things like that in service of the story, which is what he's doing. So all the irritating times when he says, and he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to write the book in that way. He could have written it in a very linear way, in a very these are the characters that matter, not all these randoms. This is the story that matters, but he purposely doesn't. So you have to, I guess, be willing to let go of all your prejudices against this kind of nonsense and go along with him, which I'm glad I did because it was just such a fun ride. It was difficult at times, and at times I was what is going on? And at times it was really dark as well. Oh, yes. Because Indian history is quite dark. So, and I learned a lot of because in school we learn a lot in India of sort of ancient Indian history or sort of British colonization history, but not so much about modern India, after post, a little bit, but not so much. So a lot of the stuff that I didn't know, which I learned through this book, but not in a way that felt like it was learning. It was a way that, it's obviously there to sort of terrorize this boy, this man. So, right, okay, this happened because he needed to be there. So it was just it was a very unusual book, I feel, for me as well, who is more now that I've gotten more out of my comfort zone, even then, I think this would be quite a difficult book to sell to somebody. If I say to someone, oh, it's won all these prizes and stuff, and then they start reading it and they're what is going on? Where am I? Are these the kinds of books that win prizes? Apparently, yes. Three times, yeah. But it's just I think the way with which he writes it and he narrates the story, if you let go of your prejudices, I said, against it, it can it can make you see stories in a new way. Forget the world. Just in terms of storytelling, it doesn't need to be in a particular way, which is what I the kinds of stories I gravitate towards are kind of similar in that, what you were saying about your book. We know what we're getting into. Murder mysteries, we know what we're getting into. In this, I had absolutely no clue what I was getting into, but I enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed it more because a lot of the classics that I was reading these last few months were American and British and things, which is stuff that has become my culture secondhand because of media that I've sort of, read, watched, whatever. And that's great, that's fun. But this felt very much like home. You don't have to explain yourself at all. You don't have to imagine yourself in this place. Even though India is a huge country, right? We have lots of different cultures. We're also a very old country. So we have lots of different prejudices and lots of different, fights and battles and things. And it's all there. It's the madness of the country, I feel, couldn't be better represented than the madness of this book. Because he writes, India is, it's not this cool, comfortable place. It's hot and it's, messy and there's so many people and there's so many different stories and so many different worldviews and things. How do you bring that all together? And he does a remarkable attempt, I think. I don't know if anybody else could have pulled it off. And I think in a lot of people's eyes, he wouldn't have pulled it off just because I said, like my first anti-PR, this is a difficult book. I am glad that I read it. So glad that my next winter autumn project might be reading prize-winning books because I'm like, oh, maybe I want to like see what the weirdos are up to. What are they doing in those weird Booker or whatever prize corners? Because it's not a book I would have read otherwise. Like even the prize I didn't even care about. I was like, I don't care about these Booker prizes. But the fact that it was a book about India, Indian history, and I knew it was mad. I knew it was about the city like Bombay. And it was a little bit, but also it wasn't. It was about so many different things. And it just felt like a ride. It just felt like a ride that was fun and mad and weird.
But not for everybody.
Definitely not for everybody. For people who would be just willing, because some people are more adventurous, right, with their like life in general, but also reading, sometimes you want to try something different. And if you're willing to try something different and you're okay with like going in weird directions, I think this is a book for you. Yeah. For everybody else, I think tread cautiously.
Does it have a decent ending?
Yes. Well, I said yes. I finished reading this in the train coming to work this morning. Yeah, because I struggled, Jenny. I struggled. Yeah, just in terms of the pace of it. But it has an ending that I think is an ending. It was a little bit of a not a confusing ending. I wasn't quite sure about it. So I want to now go and read what other people have said about it. But it was definitely an ending. And a lot of the different plots I say plots quite loosely. A lot of the different stories that were happening around, they all ended. They all ended. And his kind of the life story that he was building did come to an end. That's, yeah. So
full stop.
Yes. So it was, I think the ending was the kind of story that it represented. Like the story was messy, and I think the ending was messy and chaotic.
I think sometimes an ending might not be the ending we choose, but it finishes the book.
Yes, and I think it finished the book perfectly. And this is a genre again that I'm not super familiar with, and I wouldn't pick up. Like I read a lot of fantasy. This is more magical realism, which is like pick a genre, be the realistic or be fantastic. So like all these kind of different powers that these children have and he has, and because so he loses his first power, the mental telepathy thing, and then he has a power because one of his characteristics is he has a nose that is mad. It looks like a cucumber, like it's like giant, and like it's a feature that is not beautiful. It's like it's something that he's made a lot of fun of. And he loses that power, but then he gains the ability to smell all kinds of smells. So he can smell like the regular smells that you and I can smell, but he can also smell emotions of people. And like things like what fears and sort of if a person is like suspicious or if a person is really nice or so he can smell all those kinds of things, and he sort of categorizes them into different, like, oh, hatred smells like this, love smells like this. So it's interesting. So it's not fantasy. It is like magical realism, I get. And again, that was something I was glad I explored. I don't think I would go and read more magical realism.
Would you read more by this author?
Yes. I would, because I would know, I think, that I was in for a journey. Although I won't say who said this to me, but I mean, I'll tell you after we stop recording. But somebody told me that they read his non-fiction and he came off pretty unsympathetic, even though he is a man. I don't know how familiar you are with Salman Rushdie, but he was sort of threatened with a fatwa in like the 1990s or something, which is basically, I think, Iran or Iraq, like the religious leader there. And he's Muslim, but he's a secular Muslim. So he's not like super like fundamentalist religious. So he wrote a book called The Satanic Verses, which Muslim fundamentalists took great umbrage to. And this person, a fatwa is basically like a kill order kind of, or like he deserves to die kind of thing. And also more recently he was stabbed at not funny, but he was stabbed. But what I found funny is that when he wrote about these things, the person that I'm talking about said that you would think that someone who's gone through so much in his life would have come across as quite, like, oh yes, we're on his side. But no, he he came across quite like, So the person advised me to like stick to his fiction.
Oh, right, okay.
So I might not read his non-fiction. But yeah, I've not like his personal sort of personality is none of my business.
You know that I always think of that when talking about authors. I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't
Yeah.
want to know. Like famous people.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what you're doing yet. I
Yeah.
don't want to watch your movies.
I mean, I don't think he's a horrible person in that he's done horrible things. I think he's just maybe, from what I gleaned, a difficult person. And it was a difficult book, so maybe difficult people need to write difficult books.
But then I suppose I don't write stories, but when you're writing stories, you do put a bit of yourself in there, but also you can be somebody completely different, and so you can't always judge a person by their book.
He has actually put a lot of himself in this book and a lot of his friends and family as well. So much so that when the book first came out, it was like really popular even then. And he has a character, like, so when he was a kid, he had like best friends and stuff. One of the characters is called Hair Oil, like, as in like just like a nickname, because this boy, his parents used to oil his hair really well, and then there was a middle parting, so all the children called him Hair Oil. And then when he was at a book event in Bombay and Mumbai, one of his childhood friends had come over to him and said, "Hi Salman, I'm Hair Oil," because he knew that he was the inspiration for the story, even though Salman said that he had lost all his hair by this point, but he still recognized himself in this character. So he drew, and the city as well, what he writes about. Like, he spent time in this book in Karachi, in Pakistan, and Delhi in India, but that didn't feel like as lived in. Like, it was just a place, a setting, whereas in the Mumbai parts of it, the Bombay parts of it were a character. Like, I could recognize all the things. So he's written of it with like much knowledge and love, which was also, I think I was biased because of that. I was like, okay, it's my city. I remember all these things. I love my city and things. So I was predisposed, I think, to like the madness and chaos. I don't think everybody will be. But yes, I recommend this with caveats.
Okay. All right. Well, talking about coming out of your comfort zone and reading something different, Dungeon Crawler Carol is very much like that.
Yes.
So this was recommended to me by another member of staff who had been recommended it by somebody else, if that makes sense. It is not my kind of book. Yes, it's got a fantasy sticker on it, but even the cover is not anything that I would really be interested in.
It's a very fun cover.
It is. So it's a black background and big yellow solid writing. It says Dungeon Crawler, Carol, Matt Dinniman.
And Carl has an eye in it, like a Mordor kind of eye.
And the more you look at it, there are a few things you see. So there's some skulls here, one of them which is coloured in.
A pineapple.
And a pineapple. And then there's jagged teeth almost, which I see it. And there's somebody running with possibly a stick of dynamite. And there's...
I saw it as stalactites and stalagmites, but they do also look like teeth.
Yes, yes.
And is that a cat?
It is a cat. And this is what's going to sell it to you, Pari.
Well, Dungeon Crawlers, I know, are a kind of video game, aren't they? Like Dungeon Crawlers. Yeah.
So I do not have my glasses on. I apologise for this. You know what's worse than breaking up with your girlfriend? Being stuck with her prize-winning show cat. And you know what's worse than that? An alien invasion, the destruction of all man-made structures on Earth, and the systematic exploitation of all the survivors for a sadistic intergalactic game show.
Oh.
That's what it's about. So
that's not where I thought it was going at all. Okay.
So, not fantasy. It's more kind of like
science fiction.
So basically, Carl, our main dude, has popped out late in the evening because his girlfriend's cat has got stuck in a tree. So he goes out. He's in his boxer shorts and I think he grabs like a jacket or something. Nothing else. Goes out and yes, the alien invasion happens. It's a little bit like
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That basically Earth doesn't know that they were supposed to have done something, and because they haven't done that, basically everything's kind of squished. All the man-made structures and everything squished. So if you were in a building, you're gone.
So, but the planet itself survives.
The planet's there. trees and things like that don't seem to be, it's sort of man-made structures. So the tree that the cat was in, it seems to be fine. But the building, his building, and his neighbour, who had her head out the window at the time. So yeah, straight away there's a head rolling about.
She lived a long life.
She did. She was just shouting because the cat was making a noise.
Maybe she deserved it.
And then basically this big kind of announcement comes over planet Earth and basically says, yeah, you can stay on the surface, but you know, that might not be good. Or you get a chance to enter the game. And then these kind of holes in the ground almost kind of open up. So Carl's got a choice. Does he go inside the tunnel or does he stay out the tunnel? He decides to go in, and then yes, it's a bit like Hunger Games, that suddenly you're in this place. There's lots of things set to kill you, and you got to survive. I think it's 12 levels. And he's
like, not the only human survivor.
No, so there's quite a lot of humans about because it's a global thing. And these kind of, I'm saying portals, not portals as such, open up, and you know, you have this choice. But basically, it's the end of the year. So basically, he enters the game with just his boxers on and a leather jacket, no shoes on, and with a cat.
What a choice.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, it's cold outside, it's a bit dark, there might be aliens. Let's go into the tunnel. So he does, he goes into the tunnel, and it is just such a brilliant adventure. It's very different from whatever I've read before, but at the same time, the whole premise of it is like, we don't know what's happening, he doesn't know what happens. So he's went into this tunnel, he's then entered the game. And basically, there's lots of rules and regulations and they kind of pop up, but the way it's written is almost like you're in a computer game with him. So he gets like badges for doing certain things. He gets like instructions on how something works. You know, if a new character appears, so there's like goblins and things like that, like a wee box will come up above of them that says goblin number 1, you know, likes whatever, five destruction points or something like that. You know, it's very much, he has entered this computer game. If he discovers things, he's got like a kind of mental kind of sack that he can put things in, like you would in a computer game. You know, you've got your kind of you know, if
like
you find,
collect treasures.
Or like if you get weapons, you know, you can and like he learns, and we learn with him, that he can, like, this is now in his head as well, so he can open up like a menu in his head and work out you know, what to do. Eventually he's given like a map, so he can like work out where he is, and basically it's like this big, I mean, it's the whole of the world is the same, and there's these staircases down to the next level. If you don't get to the next level in time, the upper level, I think,
collapses.
Yes, and you're gone.
So that's quite good motivation.
Yes, absolutely.
To keep going.
Absolutely. We learn a lot about Carl as well. He's a bit of, it comes across as being kind of like a, I think he was in the lifeguards, and he was in the kind of, you know, so he's got some skills that you and I perhaps would not.
No way. No, we're library ladies.
Exactly. We'll hit you with a book, that's about it, or shush you, but that's it. So he has some skills, but he's not, you know, he's in his boxer shorts, basically. And as you're going along, you discover this is televised to the galaxy. So there's a lot of people watching him now, running around with no shoes on, in his boxer shorts, trying to survive on to the next level.
They're aliens, you know, they might just think this is a part of human culture, like this is human fashion, cutting edge.
Yes, exactly. And again, a bit like Hunger Games, you know, there's people that might sponsor you as you get on and things like that, so you're trying to impress. I want to say the game itself, or the kind of the person that's kind of telling him what's what, has a slight foot fetish, so is delighted that he has no shoes.
There you go, every cloud.
Yes, exactly. And there's like we kind of bits and pieces they can pick up along the way to kind of improve their health. You know, they get to decide on one of the later levels what they want to be. So if you were in like a computer game, like a kind of Dungeons and Dragons thing, you know, you would decide if you wanted to be a mage or you wanted to be a warrior or all that kind of stuff. So that's going to happen later on. But in the meantime, you're picking things up, putting them in your bag for you to help. There's also like random things. If they kill something, they might get a sandwich or something ridiculous. There's also safe spaces, which they can go on, like tutorial places, so they can go, and there's a kind of weird looking guy there who will talk you through some of the stuff that you've found and got and worked out. There's also stuff that you can barter, so it's not necessarily you get this scroll that you will automatically open it. You might want to keep that so that you can like swap it for something else. So we're learning with him as we're going along. These are not the kind of computer games that I would play, but I've still got a kind of slight knowledge. You don't need that knowledge because it's explained along the way. In it's a very funny book. It's a laugh out loud book, but also there is stuff like goo and things like that. When you're killing these kind of things. There's also, just like any computer game, even a platform game that I like, bosses. So if you kill a boss, you're going to get a bigger part of the map, you're going to get better treasure boxes, that kind of a thing. And it's just a really good adventure. It's the first in a series again. I know that there's, I think, 6 books or something.
Right.
I'm not sure. We have only covered level 1, 2, maybe, and he's 1 to level 3 now. I think. And obviously as you're going down the levels, things are getting harder. There's less other crawlers about. The skulls on the cover, basically, if you kill another crawler, you get a skull. And when you meet other people, just like in a computer game, sometimes above their head, basically floating, things.
So if you're a murderer, people will know.
So he comes across somebody like that and he doesn't know at first what that means. And then it's like, oh, that's not you've killed a boss, that's you've,
killed a boss,
killed another person. So there's quite a lot of he meets a few other crawlers, and some of them are nice and some of them are totally bewildered, don't know what's happening. At one point, and this has given something away, he meets a bunch of basically people who were outside a old folks' home because the fire alarm went off, because Crazy Mary had set the fire alarm off. They all went outside and about, and like obviously the couple of carers with them were like, what will we do? Oh, here's a tunnel, let's go down the tunnel. And then obviously they have no skill, do you know what I mean? There's a couple in wheelchairs, there's a couple.
Surprise you, Jenny.
Well, I think the carers are just wanting to get them.
Where are they going to go, carers?
So they go to and basically you're told if you go down the staircase before a certain hour, you just put in stasis and you will not earn any extra points. Basically, you won't be able to build up your armory, you won't be able to do this, that. But I think the carers just like get them in the stairwell, get them in stasis, and then we can have a think kind of a thing. But there's also other ones that are basically killing other crawlers to get what they have, because if you kill somebody, obviously you're going to get, like a computer game, you're going to get what they've got. It's not, I know I'm sounding as if it's geeky, it's not geeky. It's not like, like people sitting around playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. It's not that kind of vibe to it. It's very much we're in a situation here and we don't know what's happening, but we need to keep going, because if we don't keep going, the alternative's rubbish. There's one point where they get whipped away and put on television to the millions of aliens that are watching, a bit like a guy in Hunger Games, so that they can kind of big themselves up slightly. I have not spoken about the cat at all. I'm now going to talk about the cat constantly. The cat, who is called, and I've forgotten what her name is, Princess. Oh no, what is her name? Princess Donut. She has a longer name than that, but she's basically a show cat. His girlfriend split up with him. He's been lumbered with the cat. You discover he quite likes the cat, but he doesn't want to show that.
Cat sense weakness, except my cat, who's very needy.
Well, she's kind of, she's just going on. But there's at one point where you kind of level up, so you're not on the next level, but you kind of, so she manages to be able to talk. I'm not sure that I would want a pet talk, but she is Princess Donut.
Yeah,
she is royalty. She very much acts like a princess. She is wonderful, one of the best characters I've came across for a long time. I absolutely adore her. If you have any inclination for cats at all, read this, because by all the other stuff that's happening in this dungeon, and death and goblins and weird machinery, the cat and him, their relationship is just fantastic. And of course, he's, at that point going, well, to begin with, I need to keep the cat safe. But then it's like the cat decides that he's her, like, knight, her bodyguard, and it basically he's staff, as cats absolutely would. And she's desperate because she's a show cat as well. She knows what you have to do to be the best in show. She absolutely wants on television, so she keeps like doing things that probably make things a lot harder, but
make for good telly.
But yeah, she's so disappointed when they don't get, because again, you kind of, every now and again, if you go to safe room or whatever, you see like highlights of stuff of what's happened, and she's like appalled that they've not been on, screen. And then at one point they get whisked away to be on somebody's show. So there's loads of shows throughout the galaxy. There's loads of people who do different shows. They do different styles as well. So there's one style and it's very much aimed at like young men, and there's one that's kind of aimed at making things slightly glamorous and all this kind of stuff. So they go in this first show and she very much basically says, Carol, do not say anything, do not open your mouth, this is me. And she goes on and she's all like, yeah, I'm fabulous. She, at that point, I think she's got a crown, she's got a tutu on, she's just, absolutely fabulous. We are here, I'm royalty, blah, blah, blah. But unwittingly, kind of, as the time goes on, makes enemies because she has said certain things, but she is just glorious. And obviously she is now a crawler as well. So to begin with, she was taken in and her name was Pet. She now has become a crawler in her own right, so she now can get treasure chests and things as well. And because they are now a team, they can kind of share things as well. Absolutely brilliant. I can't say it enough, but she absolutely makes it. I love Carol, I love the whole world, but Princess Donut absolutely makes this book stand out. And I want to see, like,
so will you be reading the next?
Absolutely. I've already asked her boss to order in the second one in. It is just, you'll enjoy it for that. You'll enjoy it because you're a slight gamer as well, so you'll probably enjoy that side of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. That's not what it's about. If you know what I mean. If you like things like Hunger Games, you're going to like this because it's that, but for older people. If you like anything like that,
like the Hunger Games was more like serious. Political intrigue, whereas this seems more like zany and more hitchhikers-y, but with peril.
Yes. Also, like, there is kind of politics going on behind the scenes. So when they go on one of the shows, they kind of learn, and when they go on another one, they kind of realise that other things are happening. They find out things about. So this happens I don't know if it's every year or whatever, but on a different planet, and like there's some kind of like hints here and there that, humans, it's not just Earth, there are humanoids elsewhere, and every time they do this, it's not always humans that they choose. It could be like lizard people or other kind of worlds, but it kind of feels as if there's a corporation behind all this who's kind of seeded out these kind of civilizations and then gone away for dozens and dozens of millions of years and then came back and went, all right, you're at a level now where your world has resources that we can get, and part of that is whoever's living on the planet at the time, away you go kind of thing.
Quite clever. Strategically brilliant.
Exactly, but also entertainment. So they're taking this and they're making it.
That is a bit like Hunger Games.
Yes, yes. And like that, there's things basically out to kill you all the time, and there's weird and wonderful baddies. So there's like, things that just look like blobs of like gloop that, if you don't kill them at a certain time, will turn into something else.
I have played video games like that.
Like the level bosses, there's always something else happening in the background, and like with level bosses, there's usually like 3 things that you have to do 3 times, and it's all that kind of stuff. But there's some weird and wonderful things, and again, you're finding out stories from where do the goblins actually come from, where are they, because they're actual people, they're actual, but they're on this game. What's going to happen to them when this level collapses? It's that kind of thing. Actually, are they the baddies, or is there a bigger baddie behind it? And And at the end of the book, there's like a very, very short story about some of the characters we meet. And I think it seems to be that every book is going to develop that story slightly. And it's kind of like I'm sure it's going to be one of these kind of side stories that actually kind of meet up at the end. But it's such an entertaining book. I do not want to see this on screen because I have in my head very much what I think, and Princess Donut would just not make. You couldn't do that on screen. It would just be awful. I'm sure someday will make it onto a screen thing and I'll watch it and it'll be wonderful. But I want to read all the books before that happens, if you know what I mean. Just like, and I keep saying this, with Hunger Games, I read all the books before I watched because I wanted that, if you know what I mean. But if I had to choose my favourite character of all time, it would be Logan Ninefingers, but my second favourite character of all time would be Princess Donut.
Quite a rare sort of like umbrella framework. Well, I think B is quite happy with our recommendations. And the thing is that B realizes the power of recommendations. This book that you would never have picked up was recommended to you via someone. And I've taken your recommendations on board because last time you spoke about Scrublands. I don't know if that's what it's called, the book. But I started watching the TV show yesterday, TV series. And it's excellent for me because it's only 4 episodes, which is my kind of thing. Otherwise, I would have been watching it forever. I also started reading one of the books that you'd spoken about a few episodes ago, Children of Earth and Sky. So I finished reading Midnight's Children, but that was like my first train, and my second train I was bookless, so I had a backup book.
Excellent.
Which is good. So based on all the power of recommendations, the next episode's theme is going to be word of mouth.
Oh, interesting.
Which is, it could go in many directions. Yeah, because in this case, the word of mouth could be quite literal in your dungeon crawler because a lot of like creepy mouths floating around.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, some slightly creepy mouths in Midnight's Children. Different vibe, similar level of creepiness.
I like though that you're going creepy.
Yeah. I don't mean to. But
word of mouth could have meant something
like a recommendation. Someone talked very. I did make, but because there's many different directions.
There is.
But yes, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next time with a new episode.
Bye.